and the Buckeyes are heavily favored to do so. They're an 8.5-point favorite, opened as a 9.5-point favorite for the national championship game exactly 1 week from tonight in Atlanta. It's the Buckeyes of Ohio State. It's the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to that. Should be a good football game. I want to see if that Irish defense can prevail, because one thing we do know is it's way more talent on one side of the football, but sometimes that doesn't matter when it's a one-game finish here. Just play your best football. But let me ask you a question about the future of Texas, right? Because we do think it's Arch Manning. But let me ask you this, though. Quinn Ewers has a year left of eligibility. He comes back to Texas. We would assume that Arch Manning would not play again, right?
No, it's not going to happen twofold. Quinn Ewers also told ESPN's Pete Thamel before the Cotton Bowl he intends to enter the NFL draft in what appears to be a weak quarterback class. Even if he decides that that is not his future, he's in the transfer portal. Quinn Ewers is not going to play again for Texas.
Well, why not, though, if he's the better quarterback and Sark likes him better? Like, if he said, I'm coming back, like, let's just say Drew Aller, well, there's nobody really behind him. The kid transferred. But if he did come back, it would be interesting. I just look at it like this. If the kid was such a good recruit, you should have played him as a freshman, because, quite frankly, you might have won a national championship this year if he had 10, 12, 15, 20 starts under his belt. I just think it was mismanagement, because when I watched Texas, I always thought the problem was Quinn Ewers, honestly.
And Donnie, you're right to question why Steve Sarkisian did not make the move this year. A couple of things. Quinn Ewers did not go to Texas during his freshman year. He went to Ohio State and then quickly became the starting quarterback in favor of Hudson Card back in 2022. He was elite last year in the biggest games, that being Ewers. He faltered this year in the most significant of stages. He threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns against that Buckeyes defense, as good as you will see, and an interception at the end, but costly turnovers. Not sure the strip sack was all on him. He never saw Jack Sawyer coming to his right side. And again, even if it wasn't a strip sack, Texas would have turned the football over on downs for Ohio State probably to ice out the game. Just all to say, Donnie, if Quinn Ewers were to decide to return to college football, it would not be at Texas. I think the Longhorns have learned their future is in Arch Manning. It might have been Quinn Ewers now. It is Arch in the future. Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid, rounding out our first day of this new week. It is a Monday on TEL. Of course, Monday Night Football, a finale tonight to the wild card weekend, the opening round of the NFL playoffs with one more spot at stake in the divisional round tonight between the Vikings and the Rams. The winner will head to Philadelphia next Sunday afternoon to take on the Eagles. Philly, again, hypothetically, would be a 3.5-point favorite against the Vikings at home, and that projected matchup nearly a touchdown favorite against the Rams, a 6.5-point number. That's next Sunday. Tonight is Monday. Exactly 1 week from today, it's a college football playoff national championship game in Atlanta, Georgia, inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's Notre Dame and Ohio State to be crowned a national champion in the first ever 12-team college football playoff, the largest field ever in a college football postseason, in a chase for a national championship, requiring the most wins necessary to be crowned a national title winner. You heard it from DRS, and allow me just to make a point before we dive into the early numbers for next Monday's game. A lot was said about the college football playoff in the first ever 12-team rendition of it in that opening round, right? On-campus games, how cool and exciting those atmospheres were, paled in comparison to the results. 17.3 points per game, the average margin of our 4 games in the opening round. And in fact, we saw a lot of double-digit games as well in the quarterfinals between Boise State and Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, even a game we expected to be close. Heck, Georgia and Notre Dame was still decided by 2 scores. The only game decided by a single score in our first 8 matchups in our first 2 games was that wonderful double overtime thriller in the Peach Bowl between Arizona State and Texas. And that game featured a 13.5-point spread. The reason I bring all of this up, because what we are seeing even in wild card weekend in the NFL, or as we see in the NBA in the opening rounds of a postseason, certainly in Major League Baseball as well, that once you reach the playoffs in any format, you are going to have blowouts. even between the best teams in a league, the good teams that qualify for playoff success, there are different tiers. There are different pegs of what you will reach in terms of being elite, in terms of being on the upper echelon, in terms of being a true contender to be crowned a champion. And we have seen that in college football. I think there is little doubt that we saw the 4 best teams in the country actually square off by the time we reached the semifinals. And of course, in both games, the deciding moment of said matchup was in the final 2+ minutes of regulation. A 41-yard field goal to win it off the right foot of Mitch Jeter between Notre Dame and Penn State in an exciting and exhilarating fourth quarter in Texas with 1st and goal at the 1, needing to try to go for it on 4th and goal down by a touchdown with just over 2 minutes remaining in regulation, only to have Jack Sawyer make perhaps one of the best defensive plays Ohio State has seen in over a decade. That is beautiful. You weed out the weaker teams, even in a postseason format, in those early rounds to get the best of the best squaring off in the most significant moments of a game decided on an actual playing surface. And that's what we should have for a national championship next Monday night, although the odds expected to be rather one-sided. Ohio State is an 8.5-point favorite. Our total is 45 and a hook. The projected spread was 9.5 in favor of the Buckeyes. As soon as Ohio State edged out Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and the line for this specific national title matchup opened up, it was still 9.5 in favor of the Buckeyes. Yes, we have seen some buyback on that spread, expecting Notre Dame to keep this game just a little bit closer, but it's still north of a touchdown. I do want to remind everybody, just in case even a national championship game seems a little bit lopsided, that in the 10-year history of the 4-team format of the college football playoff, half of those 10 national championship games decided by at least 3 touchdowns, with an average margin of 21.4 points per game. Just keep that in mind. But I expect this game to be closer. I think Notre Dame's defense has earned that benefit. And I think the Irish will be able to have enough success on the ground to keep this game close. I already bet Notre Dame plus 9.5. I have 2 national championship tickets. One that I bet in early October on Ohio State. One that I bet as soon as the bracket for the college football playoff was revealed on Notre Dame. I'm feeling pretty good this week. That does it for the early line today. Returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time on a Tuesday.